Hello everyone, Shemai Pawb, croeso and welcome to Module ALN Excellence in Practice. Anghenion dysgu ychwanegol ragoriaeth mewn ymarfer. Apologies in advance for the croaky voice. The aim of this brief video is just to give you a little bit of background before we meet for our formal induction sessions. And as a reminder, this module is due to start Monday, the 18th of May. So all of you will have done one optional module previously, and those of you who've done one of the ALN option modules previously will recognise many of the faces on the slide here. So just a brief introduction to some of the staff from across the different universities that you will get to meet during the National Conference Saturdays, for example. And thinking about the National Conference Saturdays, again, all of you will have had the opportunity to attend these in the previous module. These National Conference Saturdays for this module will follow the same format. So we will look to start at 9:30, look to finish at about 3:15, and we have quite an advance warning in terms of these next two conference Saturdays. The first one will be Saturday the 20th of June, and the second one will be Saturday the 11th of July. Just want to spend a couple of moments introducing the assignment to you. There is further assignment guidance that's available already on Canvas and also on PLP. But as a brief introduction, your assignment for this module is a 4,000 word equivalent piece of work. The assignment will be submitted in two parts. However, you will submit both parts of the assignment together on a single Word document. And the assignment asks you to critically evaluate provision for ALN in your current setting and to think about developing an action plan to overcome barriers you identify to whole setting practice. So those of you who did the Inclusive Classroom Practice module in Term 1, for example, very much the focus of that module and that assignment was on your individual practice in your own classroom. This one is thinking far more about whole school or whole setting practice and approaches to supporting inclusion. So, what are the two parts of the assignment? Now, the first part of the assignment is an audit. Now, audit perhaps gives this first part an element of formality that it doesn't have. Realistically, we're not asking you to go into your setting and conduct a formal audit of anything. There's no expectation that you have to kind of do any research in your setting. There's no expectation that you should have access to kind of data specifically to use. But realistically, what you will be asked to think about is identifying practices in your setting that are effective in terms of supporting and promoting whole setting approaches to inclusion. You will also be asked to think a little bit about what barriers may exist currently and also how these barriers could be overcome. And in terms of thinking about practices that you might be looking at here, realistically, what I would suggest you are looking for are things in your setting that are already going quite well, but potentially could still be improved to become good or excellent. So realistically, you're not expected to find things that are not going well, however that might be the case. However, it could be something like, you know what, at a whole setting level, we are pretty good at supporting parental engagement. However, this parental engagement could still be improved further. The second part of the assignment then is an online presentation which will recap the findings from your audit, and you will then be asked to analyse the key challenges which create those barriers that you've noted and to reflect upon the skills and actions and strategies needed to engage with and challenge key stakeholders to overcome the barriers that you have identified. Now, part one was a 2,500 word written piece, and I have set out a template as to how you could do this, for example, on Canvas. This second part is a recorded presentation where realistically you will put your findings together into a PowerPoint, and you have 12 minutes, which is seen as being 1,500 words equivalent, to share your findings and discussion here. There is no expectation that there will be 1,500 words on your PowerPoint, or indeed that the presentation that you give alongside it should be 1,500 words. The key point here is the 12 minutes in terms of the length of the presentation. So going back to think a little bit about part one. So the audit, so 2,500 words. So we would suggest, first of all, starting off with a 500-word introduction. So here you could give key information about the context of the discussion. So in other words, signpost the reader to what it is that they are going to read within your discussion. Then introduce your setting and your role within the setting, and to also offer a general overview of current ALN provision and ethos in terms of inclusion within the setting. You then have 2,000 words left to offer an overview of current practice and provision, and again thinking about what's going well and what could be improved. And you are asked here to make your audit SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant and time-bound, and also to make links to current literature, legislation and policy to underpin the discussion as well. I know it says here on the slide you might find it useful to record your audit on the grid below. In terms of that grid, an example is given on PebblePad as a guide. I've also put an example on Canvas and kind of worked through what the discussion might look like in terms of setting out these kind of SMART discussions. In terms of the presentation then, the presentation will consider the following points. So it's suggested that you start off by giving a brief general overview of findings from the audit. You will then move on to consider an analysis of the key challenges to whole setting approaches. So this is currently going well, this could be improved, this is the barrier we've got in terms of making that improvement, for example. And then you will think about the skills, action, strategies needed to engage and challenge key stakeholders, which could be staff, which could be parents, could be learners, could be external agencies. Again, you'll be asked to reference legislation, literature and policy within your presentation. And in terms of the presentation itself, it is noted earlier on 12 minutes in length. You are allowed to use between 4 and 8 slides to support your presentation. However, you can also have a title slide and a reference slide either side of that slide limit. For the marking criteria then, quite a straightforward one in terms of where marks are gained. So part 1, the audit, is worth 40% of the assignment mark. Part 2, the presentation, is worth 40%, and your overall clarity of presentation, discussion, academic writing, and use of a range of appropriate and appropriately cited and referenced resources to underpin your assignment is worth the final 20%. A couple of slides that you will have seen before. So in terms of assessment for this module, same as the others, you have a maximum of 2 attempts per module. Anything that scores 50 or above is a pass. Anything that scores 50 or above does not get a resit opportunity. Anything that scored 49% or less would. However, the resit opportunity would be capped at 50%. And although this seems like quite a long way away now, because it will come round quickly, the assignment is due for submission on Thursday the 27th of August. by 1 minute to midnight, which unfortunately is the same submission date as your ARES module. And when we meet in terms of induction and our sessions going through the programme, we'll think a little bit about managing your time so that these two assignments don't kind of clash in terms of time frames over your summer holidays, for example. Again, you've seen this slide previously, thinking about good practice. Don't delay writing your assignment until the last moment, especially thinking about the fact that you have the ARS assignment due on the same day. It is helpful to have that critical friend. One of the things we will aim to do in our drop-in sessions is to offer some peer-to-peer feedback and support in terms of assignments, for example. And make the most of those sessions to come along and seek support and ask questions. So just as a reminder, we have 2 induction sessions for the module scheduled. The first one is on Thursday the 14th of May. The second one will be on Monday the 18th of May, which is the day that the module officially starts. It would be great if you were able to attend one of those induction sessions. You're more than welcome to attend both if you want to, however, they will be a repeat of each other. As we go through, if you do have any questions at all, then please feel free to get in touch. Otherwise, I look forward to catching up with you all over the next couple of weeks and working with you on this module moving forward.